Welcome to OverBoost 37. OverBoost is a podcast interview series featuring discussions with speedrunners about their history in speedrunning and gaming and the runs they're passionate about. I am your host, PMC Trilogy, and with me today is Wolsk. Wolsk, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, am I saying that right? Is that Wolsk? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot of people. There's a lot of people who think it's like a V sound or like a long O, like a Wolsk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's those are probably my alternate guesses, but I was like, Wolsk, let's just stick to Wolsk. That's probably where we're gonna go.
Hey, you get it.
So one thing I wanted to establish kind of upfront as context, recently you had an AGDQ run. You did I Want to Be the Fangame at AGDQ 2021. And I wanted to first off, because I looked at, I watched some VODs that you had sent me, kind of looked at your Speedrunner.com profile, flipped through things, but I couldn't quite get a handle on, is there like a proper term for I Want to Be Fangames? Is that it? Or is there?
Well, so the original name was just I Want to Be the Guy Fangames, because they're fan games of I Want to Be the Guy, but it kind of just became its own thing to a point where now it's just referred to as fan games.
Okay.
There are other fan games in other communities, obviously, but it's just like, for some reason, this is the term they got, is just fan games in general.
No, that makes sense. I know recently, and maybe you can confirm or deny this at your own will, but I was watching some stream and there was somebody who mentioned that actually the folks who refer to their fan creations as ROM hacks were asked not to use that term during, I think it was GDQ runs, and to refer to them as fan games. Was this something that you had encountered, or?
I had heard before that you can't mention their ROM hacks. I didn't remember the term that they're supposed to say. I think it was told later, the term they usually use is mods.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They don't want to say ROM hacks because they're not strictly legal. So I couldn't think of the word at the time. So when I shouted out the SM64 hack community, I had to think of another word to replace it, and I was just like, fan games.
Yeah. No. That's about. Look, the whole history of the way people treat the term hack is completely ridiculous. Anyway, that's its own discourse. I wanted to ask with AGDQ. Now, I'm pretty sure looking at GDQ VODs, this was your first time running at GDQ. Is that right?
Yes.
Was this your first time submitting, or had you been trying to get in for a while?
I've actually been submitting for many years, just with the expectation that I wouldn't ever get in, as probably a lot of people who submit to GDQs do. And I don't know, it's just after a previous GDQ where things went poorly in another fan game run, people were kind of thinking fan games had run their course at GDQs and they weren't coming back. So when I saw that wouldn't get accepted, not only was I shocked, but just a ton of people in the community were pretty shocked.
Now, there's a lot of fan games. Certainly I learned this from looking at your Speedrunner profile and the variety of ones that you had pointed out to me, including some that weren't listed on your profile. I wanted to ask, I assume you submitted a bunch. Is there a particular reason that you chose I Want to Be the Fan Game? I could guess, but what would be your pitch for that and why you chose that as a submission?
So it's the original, the first, what people consider to be the first fan game. It's not actually the first fan game. At this point, there's over 10,000 fan games. So it was one of the first. It was the first one that's really good, and it kind of set the bar for what a fan game would be in the future. So I played it back in 2009 when it was made, and I was always a big fan of it. And it has a lot of importance within the community along with that, and just the run itself. It's actually one of the most interesting fan game runs because it has wrong warping and actual speed tech, and it's not just don't die like a lot of them are.
Yeah, no, we're gonna circle around back to that because I have like a really specific question. It's not often, I do this every week where I watch a few VODs and I prepare for the interviews. There's a specific moment in I Want to Be the Fan Game where I had to do the step-by-step frame in YouTube trying to figure out what you were doing, and I could not figure it out. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get that. But just while we're on the sort of current events topic, I also wanted to ask then, if you could get any fan game into GDQ, do you have like one that you're like, this is really what I think y'all should take?
Yeah, so there's have you heard of the GDQ hotfix that's called like, I think it's Never Before Seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I submitted a fan game known as I Want a Micro Medley, which it's basically WarioWare plus fan games. So it's a really cool game with pretty colors and good music, and it's just cool to watch, and it has some speed tech. So that's one that I want to see get in at some point.
Cool. No, that sounds good to me. I being someone, again, to put a context into it, I asked that question at the front about, how do you refer to the community? Because generally, I'm complete outsider to this. I think the only exposure I had was in like 2009 or 2008 when I Want to Be the Guy, I think, first got really popular. I had some friends who played it, and that was kind of it as far as what I knew. And to go through, again, all the videos and see kind of where things have gone has been really, really interesting. But now is the time where we need to go back to the beginning and figure out, where does gaming start for you? Does it come from particular friends, family? Where does that pick up for you?
So the first time I got into games,
yeah, exactly.
Ski Free on like Windows 95.
So that was just like you had like a family computer that you were digging into.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up with like playing any console games because my parents were against console games because they didn't want me just sitting in front of a TV all day. So the solution was sit in front of a computer all day. So we had like just Windows 95 with like the built-in games. We had Windows 98. The first game I remember like actually playing actively would be Sonic 3 and Knuckles. There might have been ones before that. Like I know Nightmare Net is one of my like really, really old games. There's like Zoom Beanies.
Wait, how did you end up playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles? Was that like at a friend's house, or did your parents finally relent? Or was that it was on
PC.
Oh, that was on PC. I always forget Sega has a bunch of PC ports from that era. Yeah, okay. I should have known, because I know that for Virtual On, but
I didn't actually get a console until like around when did the PS2 like start to phase out, do you know?
I feel like late PS2 is kind of like, PS2 sticks around for a while until like 2008. I would say like 2008, 2010 are like the late years for PS2. Yeah.
So basically at like the very tail end of that was we got a PS2 from GameStop because we finally like got our parents to cave. And the one thing that we were actually able to get, because they still didn't want us like playing just games and sitting in front of it, we got DDR Extreme, and that's it. So we were like, my brother and I just had only DDR to play, and the main reason we only got that was because my mom thought that she could play it too.
How did that go?
We played that for a good bit. It was fun.
Okay.
I mean, I really liked that game, but like,
well, did your mother play DDR though?
Yeah, every so often.
All right.
And then like I hadn't gotten any other games for the PS2 except for like I got Spyro 2, which is a PS1 game, and then like the other ones were just friends had PS2s and they're like, oh, I don't need this game anymore, you can have it.
Well, sometimes that works too. That was my GameCube experience. Was like I was really mostly a PS2 kid, and then through like a horrible fluke, I won a GameCube. But I was like, there's no reason to buy games now. I can just borrow them from everyone who has them.
That's cool.
So one thing I'd like to ask now, I am assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that most of these fan games that you've played are single player games. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's going to be the focus of what we're going to talk about in the podcast. But I always do enjoy asking, have you had big multiplayer gaming experiences? on PC, of course, that could be anything. That could be a MOBA, a League of Legends, whatever. Like, have you been into any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'm actually like pretty much equally into like multiplayer FPSs as I am fan games. So actually, I forgot to mention one of the first games that actually got me like super interested in games, not just like playing them, was the Orange Box, specifically Portal. So my brother and I saw Portal and thought it was awesome. Ended up buying the Orange Box just for Portal, and because it had all these other games, it was like, may as well check them out. So I tried out Half-Life 2, and I found it fun. And then my brother decided to play Half-Life 2, and then he took over the computer because it was a family computer. Said he played it and I couldn't play it. Then he did like episode 1 and 2, and I was like, well, all that's left is TF2. And I just checked it out, and I didn't really enjoy it initially, but then I just decided to play it more, and then played it more, and then like 3,500 hours later.
All right, what are your big TF2 classes?
Soldier and Demo, because like I did a lot of TF2 jumping, so like I loved jumping in it. So because I got so used to those with doing jumping, because that's actually basically how I started out, it went into like actually playing the game normally, because I just got comfortable with them.
Now, do you still play Team Fortress 2 now, or? No,
I quit like 4-ish years ago at this point. I just like stopped finding it as fun. But like there's still some people in the TF2 community who like remember me or like know me because of how long ago I started, because I was like one of the original players for jumping specifically.
Interesting. I have a local LAN party series that I go to that has a big TF2 presence at it. So I almost have to wonder if they would know. I don't know if you ever heard of the GXL or RGB LAN before, but
no, I don't think so.
That's fair. I mean, it's again, I would probably have to know the name of the TF2 group, for that to be relevant.
And then outside of that, for like multiplayer stuff, there's GTFO, which is from the makers of Payday. I've been playing that a ton recently. That's been like my recent obsession. And before that was Rocket League. So it's like those 3 multiplayer games have been like the entirety of my multiplaying history.
I mean, those are good games to play. I definitely played both TF2 and Rocket League myself, so I can certainly relate to that. Here's a question that I like to, trying to come up with general questions for people's gaming histories can often be difficult because, it takes so many paths to end up where you are. A question I throw out is, we're all getting older all the time, and at some point gaming goes from being maybe something that was made available to us by our friends or family, as holiday gifts or something like that, and becomes something that we take ownership of. And typically what I'm looking for is, was there a particular point in time where, using your own money or other resources, you bought your own computer, so you no longer had to fight with your brother for control of Half-Life 2, or, your own console. Do you have a turning point you would think of where you did something like that?
Turning point where I started to like really get into it and like cement myself as like someone who...
maybe, yeah. I mean, just sort of made the decision to keep with it on your own, right? That it wasn't just, something you did because it was there. I mean, you mentioned earlier, right? Consoles weren't available, so of course you played PC games. But at some point, you could have done other things. I don't know what other things you would do. Why not play video games? But do you think there's a point in your mind like that? You're like, oh, I went out and got my own computer, and now I don't have to share a computer with anybody else.
So I would say that the first time that I started like really get into game stuff in that regard, where it was like something that I was making something I wanted to do actively. Like with I Want to Be the Guy, it released in 2007. I played it in 2008 because a lot of people on YouTube were doing it. And like I got a laptop around that time just because I was like 12 or 13 or so. So it was like a time in my life when it's like it makes sense to have some sort of laptop for like schoolwork or whatever. And I just tried out streaming it. in 2009 is when I ended up streaming. So like 3 days after I turned 13 and it was like allowed to do it on Justin TV, I tried streaming I Want to Be the Guy and like other fan games. And like once I started streaming them and like got more into them and like became part of the community and like enjoyed streaming actively, it just like it kept snowballing.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point it was like just have to keep upgrading things, like get new laptops, new keyboards, new equipment for a computer.
That's interesting. So, I guess I took a lot of words to ask that question, but I'm glad I did because, it was able to segue straight into this discussion of streaming, especially in 2009, especially on Justin TV. I've been surprised by the number of guests that I've had who are actually OG Justin TV streamers. You're not the first one. I've had a few on here already, or I'm always like, oh my God, you've been doing this, or on and off, or to some extent for that long. Time. What can you give me so you already mentioned you had a laptop, and of course it was you were playing I Want to Be the Guy, you're streaming that, other fan games. What kind of software setup? Because at that point, I don't think we would have OBS in any form, right?
No.
Yeah. What was that like to stream then?
Oh, terrible. There was no software back then that was like actually good. So you just kind of had to like scour the internet to see like what softwares were available, and it would like slowly progress, and like maybe one was slightly better than the other, but you'd constantly have a watermark in the corner that you can't get rid of. Mm-hmm. or like maybe it only worked for certain sites or something. So the one that I remember for sure was Webcam Max, which had like a mascot of like a little green alien or something, and every single stream would just have like a Webcam Max like logo in the corner. Because like that was the best we had, and even then it wasn't good. And like I streamed in my kitchen, I think. So like there was like a window right behind me, so like the lighting was terrible, and I couldn't really do anything to adjust it. God, those were the days.
Do you still have any of those streams? Are they still available anywhere? Or
I think I have some really old streams, but I don't think anything that goes back that far. Mm-hmm. Because it was before Twitch existed, so like the VODs aren't really something that's saved, because Justin TV probably everything's wiped.
Yeah.
So I have like some really old stuff from once it transitioned to Twitch, but I don't think I have any like old Justin TV stuff.
So going from there, I'm trying to figure out the order of things. What is okay? Let's go with the classic speedrun podcast question. How did you first learn about speedrunning?
That's a really good question, and not a question I necessarily know how to answer.
Well, okay, how about this one? Okay, maybe instead I should ask, how did you first learn about fan games? I mean, you mentioned already that you watched YouTube and saw I Want to Be the Guy. Do you maybe have an answer for how you got from there to playing fan games generally?
Yeah, well, it was a very niche community. It is still a niche community, but I Want to Be the Guy had its own forum. So by going there, you met a lot of other people who would play I Want to Be the Guy, and that's where like the fan games came from, is people would upload them. There's a specific fan game place, so you could like talk with other people and give feedback, and it was very direct. And it was always like really nice to be among a ton of people who just like, it's basically the indiest of indie games, where you're talking directly to creators, and like there's like no sort of quality control.
But it was nevertheless a space where you were able to discover more of these things.
Yes, it was a great place to like meet other people and find more fan games. I mean, I feel like the first like actual speedrun thing that I knew about is probably SM64, just because like SM64 was always a classic speed game, and it was like one of the very early games that I played, not on my own console obviously, but at other people's houses. So I probably like found that one of the first ones.
Would you have been among the multitudes watching like the summer of Siglemic in 2012? Was that did you partake in that?
No, I don't even think well, like I had known kind of about the people around that time, but I don't think I actually watched actively. I just like kind of knew of its existence. I know that like the first time I would say what was that? So I sent you a video that was like the first Fangame speedrun I did. When is that from?
I think that was like 7 years ago, I think was the oldest VOD you sent me.
7 years ago. My God.
Well, at least that's what it said on Twitch. I think it was the I Wanna video, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe it's the Zeus one I'm thinking of. I think the Zeus one is the one you sent me because maybe it was like the first one the first fan game you finished, maybe. Or,
no, that was just like a hard fan game that I beat. That was like one that I liked going back to speedrun because I got better over time. So that one was just like one that I beat at the time. I Wanna would be like the first one that I speedrun. So like 6 or 7 years ago. So that would be around 2013, 2014, which is also like that is around when like SGDQ 2014 was like one of the biggest GDQs, like one of the most well-known ones. That was like when it started to really gain popularity, and it was also in Colorado. So I was able to just like drive to it, and I went with some friends, and that was like, I feel like 2013 maybe would be like when I actually found out about speedrunning more actively, because like 2014 was when I was like, I want to go, because before that it had already been in Colorado and I just didn't even know. So,
and I think that would have been a big time period too, because I spent some time looking through like when the different fan games were at GDQ, and I have this perception that I Want to Be the Bashi was something that really was popular. Would you have, because I can see what SGDQ 2014 would have been one of the times Witwix did I Want to Be the Bashi. Were you there for that? Were you present?
Okay. I was actually, so you know how there's like the couch right behind the runner? So I was actually sitting just off camera, like one seat off camera, doing the Mario with the crowd.
Cool. No, that's neat. It's neat to see how you've been involved with things. All right. Maybe this is the time to bring this up. We got to talk about CatBag.
Sure.
To provide context for me as the interviewer, CatBag I feel like was something I became aware of during this time period in the mid 2010s. I was watching lots of speedrun marathons, and I want to say maybe it was like the Hayai Kauai marathons or something. It was some group,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Hayai Kauai.
Okay. That they were just going nuts with CatBag and probably other marathons too. Where does CatBag? I don't know anything about it. I know it was popular, but I don't know anything about CatBag. Can you please walk me through CatBag?
I'm trying to see if I can like find the date approximately, like when it was made, because like I have a folder full of CatBag stuff. Hayai Kauai, I can check the exact date when that was because I still have some of those saved. 2015.
Were you a part of that team or?
No.
Okay, no. Okay.
That's the funniest thing about it is like I had friends who were in Hayai Kauai, but like I didn't know anything about it, and there were a lot of people who I didn't know at all in there, and some were just like obsessed with CatBag, and it just like turned into a marathon where everyone was like throughout the marathon they kept like making their own variants like based on the current run or based on something that was said. So that was really funny. But I feel like originally CatBag was have you ever heard of Pangya?
No.
So there's a really old Korean MMO golf game. And there's caddies, the things that hold your golf clubs. And I'm assuming it's a pun, but I can't actually tell. Like maybe they're not even supposed to be like caddies because it's Korean. Who knows? But that was CatBag, is like the things that would hold your golf clubs and just like be a mascot. Where like in that they're more like paper. But I had a friend who was actually very actively into it. They were a big fan of that game, so I found it from them. And at some point in time, which again, I don't remember the exact time. I wish I could like find that more easily. They kind of like disappeared, and people were curious where they went and worried. And I at around that time also was drawing like really bad MS Paint drawings of Twitch emotes because it was funny. So I had like instead of Bible Thump, there was like Bible Cry, and it's just like a paint version. And there's like, instead of MV Gabe, I had Jay Leno. They're like some really old stupid ones. And like when I was doing some of those, I was like, I thought about like the CatBag thing, and I don't know if someone else told me to draw it or if I just decided to draw it as like a in memory, whatever. So I drew a bag that was supposed to be that. And the reason that the URL ended up in the bottom right corner is because the original picture had something written there. I had no idea what it was because the quality wasn't good enough. So I just put like a little scribble in the drawing. So the original one is just a scribble. Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
But later on, I wanted to do like a more HD version, so I like vectorified it. And when I was trying to think of something in the corner, I was like, I can't just keep it a scribble, so I just like threw my URL there. So yeah, it's been like ever since then. It like originally I put it on FFZ as an emote. This was like back when FFZ was like pretty much unknown. And there was such a thing known as Feature Friday. I don't know if you were around for that or
I feel like that sounds vaguely familiar. I was very, very passive at that time. Like I was just the viewer of everything. I didn't really participate in communities too much. So it sounds familiar, but if you want to explain again for anybody listening.
Yeah, so Dan Salvato, maker of FFZ, he came up with an idea that every single Friday he would feature one channel's FFZ emotes. So for me, all of them were like the terrible MS Paint drawings that I mentioned, and also there was CatBag there. And like there had been, I don't know if I was the second or third week, but there was definitely like one or two before me. And I messaged Dan, was like, hey, what gets someone to be on, like what gets someone to be featured for Feature Friday? And it was like, oh, actually, I like your emotes. I could just do it next week.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, right?
Yeah. And he was like, oh, just remove like this one because I don't like it very much. And I was like, okay,
cool.
But at that time, it was like a ton of people on the site, like anyone who had FFZ now had access to those emotes, and people were big fans. And there was also like a rooms feature on Twitch. Do you remember that at all?
Yes, yeah, I do remember rooms. I it seemed like such a good idea, and no one used it. So what can you do?
Yep. Yeah, I still think that would be cool to see it return at some point. I liked using it.
Yeah, definitely.
But there was a special FFZ donor room. So for people who have donated to FFZ, and they had custom emotes specifically for that room. And at one point, someone sent a message and said, I miss CatBag. And Dan was like, I do too. So then he just added it to the donor lounge. So then like people were using it there. And then just like one day, I was watching one of my friends stream, and he like typed CatBag in chat because like he knew that it was like something I'd made and was just like writing it, and it appeared in the chat in just like another chat when like previously it was just in mine or in the donor lounge, except on Feature Friday.
Right.
So it just appeared in his stream, and I was like, wait, what is that? Why is that there? And I messaged Dan, and he was like, oh yeah, I just made it global because I like it. So yeah, then that around that time, like shortly after, was when the Hayek Hawaii Marathon was, and that was like peak time when everyone was like using it, and it was like the newest global emote. Originally it didn't even say, so if you mouse over it, it says made by Wolsk. Originally it just had by like 3 question marks. Like it was like some sort of secret one that it didn't even like say the name of it. But like he later changed that. So like I was unknown originally, but like, yeah, no, he eventually changed that. So yeah, there's as far as I know, like pretty much the full story.
And so I guess it's just sort of because I feel like you said peak CatBag was that marathon, and certainly since then it's remained a global FFZ emote. Is there any epilogue to the CatBag story, or is it just going to sort of, I think, live on as that moment in time and as that global emote?
It's still like some people still love it. Like there's Liquid Wi-Fi, like the Kingdom Hearts community was like a big fan of it, and there's like random speedrun communities around who like use it a ton, who I like interacted with, and like it's still popular every so often, and still like sometimes when people just like see me on stream or see like a CatBag, like people just start posting it a bunch. Like I have when I redecorated my background, there's like a little one back there if you can see it.
Yeah, I know. I definitely can see it. Cool.
Yeah. So I've got that behind me as like a permanent thing because someone sent me that a long time ago.
Interesting. Well, that's certainly I didn't realize, I wasn't sure, I should say, how central the Haikwai marathon was to. Central maybe is the wrong word, but like how relevant it was to the story. Because again, that was just something I was watching as a Twitch viewer, and I noticed how popular it was, but I didn't have any idea. All right, so I want to ask a little bit more about your streaming history. You've been streaming a long time. At what point do you feel like there's a point when it really picked up an audience? I mean, you have partner status now, so maybe that's a question, to be like, when did you get partner? But if there's any other big points along the way, feel free to talk about those too.
Well, partner I got like just over 3 years ago at this point. It would have been January 3rd, so it like just passed. Other milestones while streaming.
Was there anything you feel like in particular that pushed you to that point, to having partner status?
Yes. So actually it does like relate to CatBag again.
The CatBag story continues.
Yeah, I could keep it going. Why not? So there was an old, like pretty popular partnered streamer, Cherno TV. He was like, he got popular because he did variety speedruns, which were something that like no one did at the time. He was like basically the only one who did that. And he played fan games. So like, I don't remember exactly how he discovered them. I think it was because he was friends with Stonk, who's another person in the community who plays fan games and was with them a long time. So Cherno started playing fan games. And he would do like streams every so often. A lot of people used his emotes. So I was like, oh, who is this? And I checked out his stream, became friends with him, and then like eventually became a mod. And then once CatBag became popular, people were like, wait, not only is that like the mod in Cherno's stream, that's like the CatBag guy. And like Cherno would also like push it. It would be like, Wolsk in the stream, post CatBag. Slight side tangential thing. There's a person on Twitch with the username CatBag who is completely unrelated to the emote. And they just like, they had it before it was even popular. And they like once came to my stream and were like, I saw like a lot of people just using my name suddenly. And I figured I'd like trace the source. But no, it's because I got known in Cherno's stream and he was like a popular streamer. A lot of people decided to check out my stream, and like he would host or raid me every so often. So like a lot of my viewers came from his stream, and like still a lot of them are originally from his stream. So he helped me a ton in that like growth. And yeah, he eventually like I can't say it's entirely like thanks to him that I like hit partner, but like I definitely highly attribute his help to my stream success, because like streaming's, you know, hard.
Yeah, growth is difficult, and like I don't know, it feels weird to talk about because you don't want to make it sound like your genuine friendships are things you do just to like network and get metrics from other people, but it's true, right? Getting help from folks who have an audience is very valuable, you know, regardless of how much you like try to machine it, you know, intentionally. But no, that's interesting. I also feel like it's interesting too, where like I almost feel like when I ask these, I often notice that, you know, sometimes people will get help from certain things, and I almost wonder if you could form like a tree, you know, like a sort of like partner
track
tree.
down like
yeah, just to see like
who the original like person who was that like like created the growth of everyone else.
Yeah, and of course too. I mean, you know, everyone who strikes off from that, does their own thing, you know, gets their own people as well. So I don't want to make it sound like, you know, anyone exists entirely in the shadow of someone else. Let's do some speedrunning takes. So I think we already covered that your very, very first speedrun was I Wanna, right?
Yes.
Okay.
To my knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Of all the speedruns that you've done, what is your favorite speedrun?
My favorite speedrun.
You can use whatever metric you want. You don't, you know, this isn't like some objective criteria. Just the one that you like the most. You know, you think this was worked out the best.
I really feel like I just have to give it to I Want to Be the Fangame. But like the thing is, the original I Want to Be the Guy was intended to be played on hard mode rather than on medium mode. Because like hard is like the default one that it sets to. Medium's like to the left, and the harder ones are to the right. So I Want to Be the Fangame did the same thing, where it was intended for hard difficulty, with medium being like the easier one. So that's kind of how I always played the game, is like I knew hard was intended. So like when I started doing speedruns rather than doing medium mode, like I would just keep playing it on hard mode. And it had 100%, so it had like more achievements and like secret bosses and secret areas. So what I ended up running and like really enjoying was 100% on hard difficulty, because like you get to see all of the game and I get to play it the way that it's intended. So I found it really fun to just like keep doing that and keep improving. And because, you know, like I mentioned before, it's a game with a lot of history, and it's like a pretty solid run that's just developed over time. It's definitely like the most fun and interesting one I've played.
It was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, I normally if someone like gave me the opportunity to watch two different categories, I don't know if I would always do that. But, you know, I did watch both the GDQ VOD as well as the 100% hard one that you sent me. And they were full of interesting little things. What about the flip side? What is, of all the speedruns that you've done, what is maybe your least favorite? The one you're like, you know, I tried this, it didn't work out. If you take a moment, if you need to pull up, you know, like 9 times out of 10 when I ask this question, the guest pulls up their speedrun.com profile.
Yeah, just open up my well, the thing is, like, I have some thoughts in my head right now, but it's like, which is the worst of the? Oh, wait, Bashi. I was like going between like a few different ones, but I forgot I even tried running Bashi, which says a lot about that one. Yeah, the like the 12-hour challenge thing,
yeah, Golden's 12-hour challenge,
yeah. So at one point I was like, I wonder if I can beat I Want to Be the Bashi in this 12-hour challenge, and then like use the knowledge of having beaten it once to like try to understand the run. So as I was like going through, I was like trying to figure stuff out, like using videos, getting help from people who were speedrunners. And the problem with Bashi is, well, it's really janky. Like there's some bad and janky stuff in it. I think the game is fun overall, but like, oh my god, there's just some parts that just feel wrong. But also the speedrun is just a mash fest. Like it's just you do like not particularly hard platforming for the most part, reach a boss, and then it's just like mashing straight for like a minute, and then you just rinse and repeat. And like there were 2 specific things. There was one boss, Krakow. It's actually a mini boss. That like the quick kill for it, I just couldn't do. You have to jump up really high, and you need to do like a ton of damage to something that you can barely hit. And like I just couldn't get the quick kill, and it really frustrated me. And then later on, there's a skip known as the Gradius skip, where you have to like shoot a save in the air and like basically like spawn, shoot to the left, and then jump, and then keep doing that repeatedly. And just the movement was so uncomfortable. And if you mess it up, you soft lock the game and then you have to reset. And that's like halfway through the run. And it's like, I couldn't even get it with any sort of consistency. So like those two things combined, just like past that, I just like didn't learn the run. Like Gradius was basically where I stopped and I just never wanted to continue. So yeah, that's probably the worst one I've tried running.
That's very interesting. Again, I know very little about how these games play, so to hear you differentiate between them, what sound like solid reasons to me, especially considering the legacy of Fangames at AGDQ is very interesting. How about a game that you would like to speedrun, but you haven't gotten around to it either, for time reasons or because it just doesn't fit in with what you're doing right now?
I can't think of a specific game, but hold on, let me quickly show something.
Okay.
Oh wait, actually, is it? Heck, where is it? It's like either in this folder, it's like on the floor next. Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. This thing.
Oh no! What is this?
It's a controller. It's a dance pad that's like for your hands.
For your hands.
So, at one point, I did a speed run on Peking Boo's channel of SM64, and basically, to put it simply, I always wanted to try either playing or like running something else with that. I don't really know specifically what game else I would do, but I know that I want to try running things with that because it's so stupid and it's like hard to resist.
What is that device? What is the okay? So I mean, you said what the device is. What is the origin of the device? Like, I understand what it is, but why does it exist?
Okay. So I knew about these things for like a long time. Like, I don't remember where I saw it. Probably like a kid's store, just like online. But it's just a dance pad for your hands. Like I said, DDR was like the first game that I had for PS. Well, the only game I had for PS2, basically. So I knew about them because of that. But like, I always kind of wanted one just to see what it was like. And there was this time Peking Boo and I had a discussion. He was like going for vacation, so he couldn't stream for like a week, and we had joked about like I could stream on his channel instead, but he plays games with a dance pad, specifically SM64, which is why that was a thing. The original thing was like he did one on my channel, so I was going to do one on his channel too. And I used that thing. He like bought it for me, and I was like, all right, I'll just I'll speed run game that you do, like SM64, just like pretend like it's your stream as a joke, and just like I did like a horrible MS Paint drawing of his stream. And just like set down the controller on the desk and just like aimed the camera at that and like tried running it. So the whole history is like originally just sent it because it was like a stupid joke. And then I actually had to like mod it to make it work properly and then run SM64 on it with no knowledge of having any idea how to run SM64. So I had to like refer to his previous runs and like try to copy things. And the best part of the whole thing is cannonless. The one that like there's a setup for. I didn't know like why the setup worked, but I knew there was one. So I tried to copy it. And I literally first tried cannonless with that thing.
It must be easy then, right? If you don't know what cannonless refers to, just I'm assuming a lot of people watching this will be speedrun fans who will be familiar with it, but it does refer to a trick, I think, where you just sort of like bump into a wall that's like below a ledge in such a way that it grabs you the star that would be otherwise knocked. It would basically inside some debris that would be knocked loose by a cannon, where you'd be shot out of cannon. Of course, cannonless skips the cannon, and it's kind of a classical Super Mario 64 trick. But of course, it's easy. Even with a hand dance pad.
Yeah, first try every time.
I'm
1 for 1, so like it has to be.
All right. So how about about a favorite speedrun to watch that you don't run yourself?
I mean, I feel like just like the two of the big ones on SRC are like big for a reason. I'll say that. So SM64 and Celeste are like probably my two favorites to watch because they're just so fast and like the movement is so precise and specific. So I mean, like they're both good for like the same reasons but different reasons.
No, that's extremely fair. I'm gonna make a note here. I usually don't refer to chat during the podcast, but Peking Boo has helpfully posted the link to the clip. So if you're watching on YouTube, my best advice for you is to copy that. And I'll try to include it in the description if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, watching on YouTube. But it's there. The link has appeared on the screen, just for anyone who wants to see the easy first try cannonless. All right, here's a little bit. Yeah. Here's a little bit of a subject change. One thing that now, to me, a person who is not intimately familiar with 2D platforming, it looks like sometimes these speedruns can get stressful, depending on how difficult the fan game is, of course. So, do you do anything at this point in terms of health? Meaning, like, taking care of your wrists, hands, anything about not sitting too long? Do you have any approaches to that, or you just kind of putting that off?
So initially when you said any approaches to health, my immediate thought was sure not. But then when you mentioned like stretching and stuff, I was like, oh wait, yeah, actually. Yeah, no, I used to like the one thing that was a big issue for me is like keyboards are obviously like an important part of fan games. Like having a good keyboard is really useful for me. So like an old keyboard I had was a blue switch keyboard, which I don't know like how much you or people know about keyboards, but basically it's like one of the heavier, more clicky ones. And it like really hurt my hands. Like that's what I used for a while, and it felt really precise, but it just like it was so hard on my hands because of how much you have to press it down. And like over time it just started to like really, really wear on my hands to a point where like I had to find another keyboard that was lighter, one with red switches, which is lighter and less clicky. And even that like was pretty good, but like this current keyboard I have is basically that, but even lighter. So like over time I've gotten just lighter and lighter switches on my keyboard just to like make it so my hands can actually like handle them, and like it doesn't hurt as much to press the buttons, because like I was actually like really worried about carpal tunnel at some point because like repetitive stress injury, RSI, it's definitely rampant, and like a lot of people have gotten it. One of my friends, Cake Sauce, he kind of looked into it a ton because he was having the same issue and he was worried about his hands, so he like looked up hand health. And there's some guy on YouTube who like does hand exercise therapy stuff for gamers. So he like tells you how to exercise and like stretch certain parts of your like hand and arm and like things that you should do actively. And Cake also found like a little kit on Amazon that has like various like strength exercises for like your hand and wrist. And he also like just recommended a bunch of things. So basically it's like this huge long list of things and videos. And as long as you actively like stretch out your arms and your hands and your fingers and like use those tools every once in a while, they're like quite cheap. Like just it's hard to understate how much exercising and like stretching really helps, even for something like video games. So like if I start to feel my arms and my hands tense up, just like take a little bit to relax and you can like feel the stretch, and just like immediately after it feels more comfortable. So now I like no longer have huge issues with my hands or wrist.
No, I mean that's good to hear. I it's so important to I usually summarize this segment by just saying, like, listen to your body. And I think very much what you were saying indicated that there were people in the fan game community who were experiencing RSI. You know, they found resources online. Do you know the name of the channel off the top of your head? I'm just as a recommendation to people, or
it's Dr. Levi or something. Hold on. I'll search like wrist exercises.
I know there's one I go up to that's like 1 HP gaming or something. 9-minute wrist warrior routine, which actually I've been using a lot and is very helpful. But
yeah, Dr. Levi Harrison. Mm-hmm. He's got his own YouTube channel, and if you just search like wrist exercises for gamers, like he's got a bunch of videos that match that stuff.
Cool.
So yeah.
Awesome. Now, I always like to hear, especially recommendations too. I mean, there's no one size fits all approach to this, but you know, the only way to know is to find out and to try. You already kind of got to my next thing I was going to ask about. I figured keyboards were important in the world of fan games. You already confirmed that for me. A thing I did want to ask about. So this week, a few times, I would wake up for work, and I discovered that I had the opportunity to lurk in your stream for a bit at the beginning of my day, which I don't know where that is in your day.
But I don't know either.
The thing that was interesting about it was most of that time that I spent lurking, you were really, I think, putting time into what looked to me like editing and making fan game stuff. And I was kind of curious, like, from a streaming perspective, is the making and editing sort of like as good for you as stream content as running? And like also, like, what's like the percentages? Like, do you find like you have a preferred flow? You're like, oh, I want to dedicate this much time to making stuff and this much time to running or playing games.
Well, a funny thing about that is like you came and you saw that, and for you it's like probably like, since that's like the only thing you've really seen, it would seem like it's like I've done a lot. Like I did it the past like 4 days.
Yeah. Is that an aberration? Is it just like a fluke?
That's like the only 4 days I've done it. So, I got I like never actually do game making stuff. Like there are some people who do fan game dev stream stuff, but the thing is, like, I never really got into it. This is literally like the first time I've done anything, and it's just editing someone else's game to just look nicer, basically. So like in terms of viewership or like people hanging out, it's like basically the same for me, because people just enjoy just sitting there and just watching and talking.
No, it seemed great. I was just really, really interested. And of course, too, the nature of, I mean, I realize you're saying that, you know, you only really doing it this past week, but because of how accessible, because I was like trying to figure out the tools you were using, and I was at paint.net, and then also Game Maker was the other thing. And I was like, oh, like this whole thing, you know, it engenders itself. It endears itself to that kind of, you know, process. And I was like, oh, that's really neat. I don't know if you'll continue doing that. I don't, you know, but it was interesting to see that sort of flow to it, because I think in speedrunning, you know, you'll see casual plays, you'll see speed runs. Sometimes you'll see routing practice streams. And people have like opinions about like what part of those they want to stream and what parts of that process they don't want to stream. So to have, you know, a game editing, game making, I thought was different. On that note, do you have any sort of takes on that subject of like never stream a first run, or, you know, do you have any approaches to how you like to stream your speedruns?
No. my approach is just like, if there's a game I want to play and I like playing it, then I may add a timer. And like that's how you get into speedrunning. Like,
it's true.
A lot of people are just like too afraid and are like, oh man, what do I do? What's like the setup I need? And like I need like all the things ready to go for a speedrun. And it's like, no, you just start a timer, get through it, and then see how it goes. So like my recommendation is just do it if you have the desire to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. It's speedrunning at this point, you know, thanks to recording and timing and the games themselves, it's the sort of thing where you should just try it at its most basic level before, I don't know, worrying about anything that anything that's marketed, especially to streamers, avoid any of that. Just speedrun.
Yeah, a lot of people have that same like thought with streaming. Is like, if I want to start streaming, I have to like have a great computer, and I need to like have an established fan base, and I need to like have a Twitter presence, and like I need to have layouts and everything. And it's like, if you don't just like start streaming, you won't know if you actually like streaming or if you have the skills or desire to even do it. So like the easiest way to start doing something is to just start doing it, as simple as it sounds.
Now, one more sort of general question before we dive into some of the specific games. Do you feel like you could articulate a point or appeal of speedrunning to you? Because obviously you're into the fan games. Is there something that makes you go that next step and turn the timer on?
Not really. I mean, some of them I just do like as a joke. Just a game that I got through and was like, this would be kind of funny to just put a timer on because the game's stupid and like really short. And other ones just like I really like the game and just I want to put effort into like making it something I run actively, and that's when I like make proper splits and like I don't know. I don't think there's any sort of real process to it because it's just kind of however I feel like.
No, that's fair. That's sometimes you just gotta go into it and go do it. All right. Well, in that case, let's start talking about some of the games then. And let's kick off with I Want to Be the Fan Game, because I know I mentioned earlier that I had a specific question about it. But first off, how did you come to play and run this game?
I mean, I played it because like it was back then like one of the only fan games, and it was like the good one. It was like one of the first. So that's why I started playing it. The reason I started running it is really just like over the years I just played it, and then I played it again, and then I played it again, and like I would just get faster each time, and like I never really like it was a long time before I felt like actually speedrunning it. It was just like I liked the game, so I beat it a ton. I can't say exactly when I started doing that at this point, probably like the point when I would use a timer, probably like 2017, 2016 maybe. But like once I actually started that, I could track my progress a bit more rather than just playing it, which like happened with the original I Want to Be the Guy too. Because like even though the game has many issues, it was just like I had played it so many times. It's like eventually I'm going to get faster at it. So
eventually you might as well track it.
Yeah. So I got into Fangame just because I liked playing Fangame.
Were the trappings of speedrunning, because you know there's this whole set with speedrun.com and live split and all this stuff. I mean, was that something that you were concerned about? Because do fan games usually have any sort of in-game timer, or because I feel like part of the challenge is being able to complete it, so you'd want to know your time. And so I'm curious, like how common it is to take the time to to use an external timer or to put your times on something like speedrun.com.
So there's like a funny sort of history in our community. But first off, there is an in-game timer. The thing is, it only counts time while you're alive. So when you die, it can like reset the timer, and it resets like within the second, and also like it won't track anything while you're sitting there dead. So it's not something we really use for any sort of timing.
Okay.
Unless it's a game that has like an accurate in-game timer, which like some of them do nowadays. Like for the most part, you're just going to have to use live split because it's going to end up wildly different. Like by the end of the run, it could be multiple minutes. But the funny history in our community is like a lot of people run games and like get records and then just never highlight it and never submit it. And it really pisses off Nal, who's like another one of the SRC mods for fan games. but like there's just so many games that like there could be a record that's completely different from what's written there, and it's just like not tracked. So like unfortunately that is the way that a lot of the games are, is like some of the more popular ones will certainly have things highlighted, but like not all of them. So like even I have done a ton of runs and haven't submitted a bunch of them just because like the way that I've always seen it, and the reason that I don't really put too much effort into like Fangame speedrun like submissions and like claiming a record or anything, is because there's so many good players. At any point in time I could play something and be like, that's the record as it is tracked, when in reality there could just be a player who on their first playthrough or like second playthrough just did it faster because they're just naturally a better player. So like I never really put any sort of emphasis on it unless it's a game like Fangame that has a ton of strats and stuff that you have to learn that you can't just do from playing the game. Since it all has like the same engine and a lot of similarities, a lot of it's just like memorize the traps or just be used to how things feel, and you can beat it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean that follows. It's especially with the huge variety of fan games that does present an issue, I think, for kind of both reasons, which is A, there's just so many of them, and B, you don't really know when you like, oh, this was something like this was, I happened to really connect to this one. I just got through it quickly. And I can certainly understand the aversion. I think a popular topic in speedrunning to sort of to discourse about is this idea of world record culture, and people just sort of yelling out that they got record to try and garner some attention.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know. I tend to run like weird, obscure PlayStation PC games, and I'll oftentimes be the only person that bother to put an external timer and record it. And I'll be like, "Yeah, that's my PB. Like, don't worry about it. It's just uncontested. All right, don't worry about it." So that makes sense. And of course, I know some of the things that you gave me were not on on your profile, maybe for good reason. One of them in particular. I did want to ask about the portal section of I Want to Be the Fangame. Sure. There's a part, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to describe it for maybe people who are listening. There's a part, it's mimicking the game portal. So there's blue portals, orange portals that are linked. And there's a part where you like jump up through a blue portal and then come out the side of an orange portal, and it looks like you die. You just turn into a blood spot. And then something happens that allows you to then jump up into the next screen. Mm-hmm. What is going on? Because I even I watched through the GDQ video, and like I think in the GDQ video it took you a few tries to get it, and like maybe that interrupted the flow of the commentary for explaining what's going on. What is up with that trick?
Yeah, so once you mentioned portal area, it was like, oh, I think I know which one. That's actually like one of my favorite tricks in the run. So basically you go through that room, and the way that it's supposed to be is you dodge the blue portal. So you like jump around them and you go up and you like wait for a platform for a while, and then you go through and there's like still blue portals coming around and you have to get through all of them. And the orange portal on the top right is supposed to be, if you touch any of those, you fly out into the spike wall and die. And once you're through that room, there's like another room above it that's like a short one. And then when you come down, you're in the top right, and that's when you go through the blue portal, which lets you leave. So the blue portal is the the orange portal is the exit. I mean, the one in the top right. But the strat, the way that it works is that one blue portal comes on the bottom, and you stand underneath it next to a save point. And when you shoot the save at the same time that you go through the portal, you'll come out of the top right, and while you're flying, you'll actually hit the save point in the bottom left and save in the air right before you hit the spike wall. And then when you reset, you're up in the top right, and you can just leave. Okay. So it skips like 2 screens and a ton of waiting.
No, that makes sense. Because I think, again, being someone who doesn't play, I didn't have the insight of how exactly the save mechanic could be abused.
Yeah, save position. Mm-hmm. So
that's really neat. Now, so at this point, you did any percent medium was the run you did at AGDQ. I also mentioned that you had sent me the 100% hard VOD. Do you have future plans for this run? Are you going to be submitting 100% hard in the future?
Oh, I've been submitting that like every time. That's the one that I really want to get in for Fangame. Like that's why I was like shilling it so hard in my Fangame run. It's like, you could have seen this if it were 100%. Yeah, no, I really want to have that one in there because there's so much content that you just miss out on. And like I said, that's the one that I like. That's the one I'm the most used to running. Is just because like it's the most fun to me and it's the most interesting.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, let's maybe move on to another game then. You gave me a note in regards to I want to see the red, which says I speedran this specifically out of anger to prove a point, comma, funny story. Lay it on me.
Yeah, so you mentioned before how there's a lot of fan games and it makes like the speedrun competition stuff kind of hard because like it's like where do you start? So SRC has or had, I mean it still kind of does, a lot of fan games that are just not good. And the reason is because there's this guy Jumpy Luff who is like the main SRC mod for fan games. Jumpy did a lot of stuff and he also speedran a lot of fan games. And at some point he had this like this weird desire for, I don't know, some sort of clout or something for having the most speedruns on the entire site. So he would just like add a bunch of games that like no one's heard of or like categories no one does just to like have a run and like have a large number. And there were a ton of fan games that he just like probably played for like maybe an hour and just like submitted that time because he could just add the games himself. And it was like really frustrating to see like a ton of really, really terrible fan games up there with ones that are like actually interesting runs, just like filling it up and then making it so like if people want to find the actually good runs, they'll come across things like See the Red, which is not a good fan game. So basically what I did is I saw his time and was very frustrated with the fact that it looked like he basically did maybe a few tries at it and then like stopped and then just put it up there so he could have a record. So what I did, I was going to say passive aggressively, but it was probably pretty aggressive. I decided to speedrun the game and just like essentially hate my life doing it just because the game's not fun and it's like not well made and it's like just got some really annoying parts to it. And I just got the record in like, I don't know, probably less than an hour, the quote unquote record, and just like put the description like Jumpy, stop doing this shit with like terrible games, just like quit it. And then it seems like it rang through to him because he like removed the game from SRC without saying anything else at some point.
Wow. I was gonna say that. I mean, sometimes, you know, I don't know. I mean, you said it's not a good fan game, so I feel like oftentimes, you know, kind of semi-aggressive rivalries can be some of the best in terms of bringing out competitive stuff. But it sounds like maybe you proved your point.
Yeah. No, I mean, if the game was good, then I would be fine with it. But like, man, it's just not. There are a lot of bad fan games out there. When there's 10,000 fan games, there's going to be a lot of bad ones out there.
Well, let's talk about masterpieces because for some reason, I did not watch it in its entirety, but you did link to me your VOD of running with a timer. I want to try the 114,514 needles, which something that took I guess to explain. Are the spikes referred to as needles in fan games? Is that
yes? Okay. Yeah.
So again, what this refers to, for you know, if you're listening and you've seen I Want to Be the Guy or I Want to Be Bosch or whatever, and you've seen I mean, I always think of spikes, needles. It involves jumping between you know, a stalactite and a stalagmite X number of times, and the game counts. And you timed it, and it took you, I think, like 27 some hours, right?
27 hours, 20 minutes.
Okay. Why did you do this?
Well, first off, I just want to like specify something. So they're called spikes, but like if a game just only has spikes, it's called a needle game. And the reason for that is because like there's a large Japanese and like Eastern presence in the community. and the like direct translation of spike is needle.
Oh, that's cool. That's dope. All right, thank you for explaining.
Yeah, so it kind of like just became a thing to call them needle games. So yeah, I had a lapse of judgment. To put it simply, I just, for some reason, there's this like, that game is like pretty well known as just something that like if you're feeling bored, you'll just like, I don't know, do like 1,000 of that jump just back and forth and like close it and then maybe come back sometime later. Doing it 114,000 times is usually not something that you would want to do in one go. It gets physically painful, mentally exhausting, not fun for the entire time. And I just like had the thought of like, I wonder if you could do this in one sitting. I like tried to calculate how long I thought it would take, and it was like, I think what I figured out was it would be able to take around like 23 hours 50 minutes based on like the pace for like getting through 10,000 at a time or something. Mm-hmm. So I was like going with that. Didn't happen in that amount of time because, like I said, it was getting like physically exhausting. And it was like I was getting distracted because if I was going to do a stream that long, I was going to at least make it fun. Like a 30-hour stream, I'm not just going to sit there and do that the whole time. So I let people like add images to the screen and like mess with how the stream looked. So that was the main thing, is I just thought it would be funny and like somewhat enjoyable to watch, and I could maybe do it and also just see if I'm able to do it or if I'd like collapse by the end. So I was like it was incredible when I beat it. It was like I had like over 200 people watching just because they wanted to see how that ended, because like who else was going to do that at any point in time? And the answer, unfortunately, is someone else did.
Oh no. Did they beat your time?
They did. Oh. Like the funny thing is like I wanted to just like put world record in the title or something because like no one would ever care. And the fact that I had to go back to remove world record is like, why did someone else do this? I was specifically saying don't do this as I was playing it because it's a terrible idea. But yeah, the other guy did it in about like 24 hours, like just under 24. So, I mean,
your estimate was right.
Yeah, he smashed my time.
Wow, that's... Well, how long did it take for someone else to do it? Do you recall?
I mean, people sprawl it out over many, many days, weeks, months, years. So,
all right.
And the best part is once you beat that, you unlock the extra difficulty, which is 1.92 million gates. So, someone actually did do that.
Oh.
Not in one sitting.
Okay, I was like, please tell me not in one sitting. Oh my god.
It was like 400 hours.
Yeah, that would be a little bit. God, what an experience. Would you ever do something like that again?
No, I wouldn't. Certainly not on that caliber. I mentioned repetitive stress injury. There is nothing more repetitive than that. Like no amount of stretching was helping me for that one.
No, it was interesting when I looked through the link and I kind of bopped through things. It was interesting to see the way that the madness accrued, and I guess I was skimming through it, right? Obviously, I'm not going to watch a 27-hour VOD. I'm sorry, but yeah. So you said you had other people were the ones that were influencing the overlay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering about that. I was like, "You're not doing this live while doing the jumps, are you?" Or like, I mean, maybe you were. Maybe you were stopping to take a break and did something. But no, it was other people doing it.
It was stopping to take it. Yeah. It was just other people like giving me those things to do.
Okay.
I don't remember like specifically what it was. I think it was for like subs or like donations of specific amounts. Would be like you could add a picture to the stream, or like do something to the stream, like make my webcam replace the game area, for example. So just over time, it just devolved pretty heavily. And by the end, it was such a horrible mess that it's like, that's the thing that actually made it enjoyable. Like that was the only reason I could get through the whole thing, was just like having people there enjoying and like having a good time despite nothing happening, basically.
All right, here's a fan game question for you then. If someone for some reason is listening to this and they're like, wow, fan games sound like such a, creative space, what would be the fan game that you would recommend to them as like a first encounter?
Yeah, so I mentioned this in my GDQ run because it's like a really good link. There's a fangames/intro. It's fangam.es/beginner, not intro. Mm-hmm. Beginner is like information about them, intro is information about them. Beginner gives you a list of like good beginner fan games. So there's like a ton that are on that list. I mean, I really like I Wanna as one to recommend early because it's really short and it is hilarious, and the ways that it screws with the player just like unrivaled even to this day. I think it's like still one of the funniest ones to watch people play. But there's like other ones that are common, like Octophobia, Little Runner. Yeah, there's a bunch of good ones for beginners because like a lot of people see fan games and they just assume that they're going to be like too hard for them because they just like think of Bashi as like this holy grail of the hardest video game ever made, which is actually more like middle of the road, like maybe middle high of the road for fan games. So it's like there are things way lower than that in difficulty and way higher than that in difficulty. So it's like you can find things at any level of like a ton of different genres because fan games aren't just like one genre. There's traps and needle and avoidance and so many different things that you can play. So like you can, if you watch someone do something and it looks interesting, then you'll be able to find something that you'll probably enjoy.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm glad. I think you kind of took the question and ran with it in terms of saying like, hey, this is way more than just I want to be the guy or I want to be the Bashi or any of that, and way more not just in terms of there literally being such a volume or quantity, but in terms of subgenres or levels of difficulty or this or that. Like there's more to Super Mario World ROM hacks than just Kaizo. Like same.
Exactly.
So I'm glad you had a chance to plug that. All right, now while we're on this subject, actually, so one of the things I do when I start to wind down the formal part of the podcast is I like to get a question from my previous guest for my next guest to sort of add a little connective tissue to the interview series.
Sure.
And the question that I got from Riven, who was my guest last week, was pretty good for this sort of thing. So the question from Riven is, if you could remove one level from one of your speed games and replace it with a level from another speed game, what would you do? See, this is problematic because you could probably literally do that with fan games, but
you actually could, yeah. One level. I mean, I can't say there's anything in fan game that I would want to like remove a level. Let's see, what's a fan game that I've done a bunch that like I have an issue with a level? This is a hard one. That's a cool question, but that is a hard one.
I mean, because I feel like the thing you would do is you would find the game where you have like the one level. Because I feel like from my perspective as like someone who plays 3D action games, I'd be like, get rid of the auto scroller and replace it with something else that's actually cool instead of the forced waiting. But I'm not sure if you really have something that would be analogous for you. Yeah, burn the auto scroller is what I would absolutely say right away. I was like, get rid of that, put something else in there.
I mean, like fan game, I don't think there's any part that I really want to get rid of. I want to be the guy. The whole game is just a mess in general, so there's no like specific level that's an issue. Micro medley, I think if I took a level from another game, it would just feel like weirdly out of place because it's WarioWare. There's just like such a variety of the games I play. It's like hard to just, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you want to hold to that. Look, I'm not gonna hold you accountable. Maybe Rothen will. I can't guarantee that. But But if you feel like the things mesh too well to mix them up, then that's your answer.
We'll try to come back to that. I'll like keep thinking on that.
All right. Well, I'll give you another hard thing then, which is that I will want a question from you for my next guest. Now, I'm not going to tell you right now who that guest is. They're a speedrunner. Right now, we only have speedrunner guests on this show. Question doesn't have to be about speedrunning. Can be about anything. I've had questions about music, game stuff generally, etc. But a question that you would give me to present to my next guest.
I actually had like some sort of idea. I don't know how good of a question it is, but I did have an idea. Because like blindfolded speedrunning stuff is like really cool to watch personally. So I was wondering if there's like any specific game that they have, like maybe not their main speed game or any game that they like play a lot, like some game that they would love to see done blindfolded in particular.
Okay. So it doesn't even have to be a game that the runner runs, but just like, wouldn't this be awesome if you could do it blindfolded?
Yeah.
All right. So as is my usual tradition, I will clue you in on who will be getting that question. I don't know if that name isn't familiar. I will type this in as well.
Gotcha.
And that should be fun. I'll be curious to see how that gets handled. Now I know.
All right. Hold on. I got the answer to the question.
Okay. All right. We got it.
All right. So we're gonna take the level from I want to try the 114,514 needles and replace it with I want to be the fan game entirely.
Oh, there you go. And that is one level, right?
Yeah.
That's one level.
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Mission accomplished. Now, another wind down question is, and I would be curious to hear this from you as well, because I imagine being in the fan game community, you are aware, maybe of other people working on their games. And so you're going to have maybe a unique answer to this, which is, are there future games that you have your eye on that you are excited to play?
Like future fan games I'm excited for.
I mean, you could also just say games generally. I mean, I was just mentioning because you're going to probably have your thumb on the pulse of fan games, but also, I mean, if you really do want to say that you're excited for, I don't even know what video games are coming out, but like you could say whatever.
I mean, there's always games that I'm excited for coming out. I mean, like I'm looking forward to the next Hollow Knight, looking for the next Galgun. But like in terms of fan game stuff, there's actually a fan game awards happening in about a week.
Ooh.
Where there's going to be trailers made for fan games. So a lot of people will be announcing either ones like coming this year or like at some point soon. And I'm expecting some like cool new ones to come out. Like the thing about fan games is a lot of people don't really like tease them a long ways ahead of time. Like sometimes they do, but like for the most part, that's not really a thing that's done a lot. But there is one fan game that I have like a pretty relatively large part in, because I was a judge for it. It's like a collab game. And the judge crew and the dev team has been working pretty hard to like balance stages and up the production value overall and just like make it, I don't know, just really cool. So basically I'm part of that. And that's one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to it, is because A, it'll be released, B, I'll be able to see what people think of like the things that have been done with the game and like the collab and the stages. So that's I guess that's like the fan game that I'm looking forward to the most right now.
Now wait, were you able to name that game now, or did I miss that, or are you not able to name it?
Oh, the fan game is called Not Another Needle Collab 2.
Okay.
So there's Not Another Needle Collab 1, which was like many years ago. And now there's the second one, which is just people make stages for a collab that's supposed to be not games that are needle. So their stage has to be not needle.
Okay.
Ideally. And then we just like graded them and like arranged them, and we have big plans and big ideas for the dev team for like how to incorporate everything together in nice ways. So I'm like really looking forward to seeing how people feel about those.
Cool. No, that sounds really neat. I feel like I was hoping there would be some story like that, and I got it. I meant it. I want it. I pulled it out. So that's good. That's cool. No, I it's again, you know, like I feel like maybe in more mainstream, if it's right to call it that, PC gaming, like people are aware of mods, people are aware of ROM hacks, things like that.
It's fair to call it not mainstream.
Yeah,
none of us would call it mainstream.
Maybe not. Yeah. But like certainly to see like the level of like collaboration and sort of for your creativity, I don't know, it's just cool to hear about. I like hearing about it. It's neat. Speaking of promoting things in the community, another question I would like to ask is to give you an opportunity to just promote someone who you feel like should have more eyeballs on what they're doing. Just to pick someone who's like, you know what, this like more people should be watching this person.
Yeah. So my good buddy, Mr. Naloa, aka Naloas, is what his Twitch name is, Naloas. Nal has been pretty relatively tirelessly, like over the years, trying to like work his way towards partnership, and he's like gotten close a ton of times. He's also a fan game player. He speedruns a lot of stuff that's quite difficult and fun to watch. He's a charming British fella who's quite excitable, and he's just he's a good friend, and I've been trying to help his stream grow as well, like help him with stuff. So
cool. No, that sounds good too, especially for like I know Now's name came up in the context of talking about moderation, right? Which certainly is a thankless task at times, speedrun.com moderation.
Yes.
So, you know, to highlight and reward that labor is always a good idea.
Yeah, he and I are the main two SRC mods for Fangames right now.
How's that? How's that? Do you have a lot of submissions that you have to deal with being a series moderator, or is it mostly delegated?
Hold on. I'll log in right now and try to tell you how many there are, because I'll tell you it's probably not more than 4.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure where this was going. For a second there, I was like, oh no.
I mean, that's the problem is like you mentioned, there's so many fan games. All right. Side note. SRC logs me out every single time I go to the site, and it's really frustrating. Just wanted to say that. I don't know if that happens for anyone else. Okay, yeah, there's 0 right now. I don't know if that's because Nal has approved a whole bunch recently. It says last thing that was someone beating a record was 2 days ago, and there were a bunch of those. So it seems like 2 days ago was the last time there was any submitted, and there were not that many.
Okay.
So the thing is, because there's such a variety and so many games that they can run, it just makes it so it's harder for more people to get into running fan games, because it's where do you start? So yeah, it's always going to be less active than a lot of the others. The most active is Bashi, because it's
right.
Bashi.
It's recognizable for sure. Well, on that note, if people are looking for fan game content, I imagine they could find fan game content at your links and addresses. Where should people be finding you? So
Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Wolsk. It is WOLSK. On Twitter, it is the same thing, but with an underscore at the end. On YouTube, it is the same thing. So all of those are places you can watch fan games from my stream, or just talk to me and hang out. I mean, there's other stuff in the community that's like I said, there's the Fan Game Awards coming up in a week, which is recognizing fan games from the past year, which will be fun to watch. So that's at twitch.tv/fangamemarathon.
Okay.
Which Fangame Marathon, the reason for that channel is because we also have a yearly marathon of fan games for speedrunning, which I am the lead organizer for that. Cool. So if you want to watch around
what time of year does that usually take place?
July.
Okay.
Around July. So if you want to watch some stuff then, like that'll be a good time, like 3-ish days of Fangame speedruns from various communities. Not just I Want to Be the Guy, I have to specify that. It's like SM64 ROM hacks and and Mario World ROM hacks and just stuff from tons of communities. So like, I mean, if anyone has like hacks or fan games that they play, Toho or whatever, then like by all means, submissions will open at some point in the future for it in July. So
cool. That's really neat. That's, you know, especially too to have that, you know, a little bit of variety, but for those games which have all that creative work going into them. And of course, all those links, I dumped the links into chat using the bot, but if you're listening or watching on YouTube after the fact, you'll be able to find the links to all of Wolf's channels, you know, in the description, whether that be on YouTube or iTunes, Spotify, etc. Wolsk, thank you so much for giving me all this time.
Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Now, I do need one more thing from you in order to conclude the formal part of the podcast.
Sure.
I am going to use a cheesy catchphrase like "Let's boost on out of here," and when I say that, I want you to give me your best rocket engine noise.
Okay.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for listening. Let's boost on out of here. Just see if you had any more.
No, not getting a fourth one. That's out of
all right. It was worth waiting. No, that was good. Excellent. So at this point, we're if folks in the chat have questions, this is the live Q&A. Lay him down. That was good. I was really excited to learn and ask questions, and I feel like my desire for learning more about fan games was sated by a lot of that. When did you make the decision to decorate behind you, though? I'm really curious.
So I actually, one of my friends, Grizzly Guy Gaming, another Twitch streamer, we talked at some point because neither of us, like, we feel like a specific kind of person uses a green screen. Like, you know how there's like streamers will use green screens or like just have a backdrop behind them. And it's like you have to be like a specific kind of person for each one, you know? So both of us feel like we're not green screen people. So he has like a really cool backdrop with like a mural painted by a friend and like merch and like a couch and like weird stuff behind him. And I talked with him once and was like, hey, what's something I could put behind me? And he was like, all right, I have a vision. Just like anime posters like everywhere behind you, just like plastered all over. And like ever since then, I had a whole bunch from Anime Expo, because I bought them for supporting artists and friends.
God, remember cons?
And
sorry,
yeah, good times. And it's like just I put it off for so long. And I was going to just have it set up for GDQ, so I would have something other than just like a white corner behind me. And then like Spike said my interview would be like the day of my run, pretty much. And then he just messaged me randomly and was like, hey, instead of doing it the day before your run, they said we should do it like tomorrow. Is that fine? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I like spent like, what was it, like I think it was like 5-6 hours or something just doing all this behind me, like making sure everything was level, just because I was like, I need to have this done. I want to have it done for the GDQ run at least. So now I had it done for the interview as well. It was a lot of work, but it was like really worth it.
Yeah, no, it seems like it came together well. Everything measured out appropriately, which is good. It's useful. Peking Boo asks a very very meaningful question. Are you proud of how handsome you are?
No, it's are you both proud? So you have to answer this too.
I mean, look, I just felt like this is a snowstorm. It's a cold day. I'll wear a flannel shirt. You know, I gotta stay warm. What can I do? And it's not like I can go out anymore. I'm not going out to dinner anywhere.
Yeah. I feel all right. I mean, I woke up and then I came here. I got like 2 hours of sleep because that's how my sleep schedule works, in that I don't have one. So I mean, I'm doing all right.
There you go. So Lone Magi, I 100% have stolen your question because you've done this before and I liked it too much. When I asked, what is your favorite speed game to watch that you don't run yourself, which I have now incorporated into my script, I think you answered, what was it, SM64 and Celeste?
Well, the funny you didn't specifically ask that I don't run. You just said favorite to watch, because I have technically run both of those.
Oh, okay. Okay. I must have left that out. That's on me. Okay, yeah, well, all right. Well, then we'll try the question again. Favorite to watch that you do not run?
I mean, I feel like I just put it to Bashi. Like, in terms of, I want to be the guy Fangame speedruns. Like, Bashi is like probably the best, or at least one of the best runs to watch, because of like the tech and the optimizations. And I can't say that I run Bashi, given my past experiences with attempting to run Bashi. I can't call that a run. It's more like a playthrough that just made me angry.
No, that's very understandable. Just a Fiction asks, can you show us the posters that are off camera, especially the Your Name one? I don't know if you can actually move your camera. It's up to you.
Not easily. I mean, okay. I can move my camera. It's just gonna suck for like getting it back in the right spot. But here, just for Fiction. It's the blue one in the top.
Okay.
That he's talking about. I can't move it any further than
that.
No,
that's good. That's fine. You're good. You're good. Mission accomplished.
Am I like centered again? Did I mess it up? It's probably wrong.
You're centered. You're centered. It's the after party. We're fine. Don't worry.
A little bit.
Conkles to the max. I'm probably getting into trouble here. How is the octagon doing? What does that mean? I don't.
Basically, it's like a really old joke kind of thing in my stream. There's like an old fan game known as I Want to Be the Herp Derp.
Okay.
You know, like the octagon meme with like Jack Black and Elmo.
I think so. That's probably been a while. That sounds like an old meme.
Yeah, it's very old. So it's like song remixes a lot of the time using Jack Black with Elmo, because he was on Sesame Street talking about octagons. And that specific fan game has a boss that uses that song, and like you're fighting Jack Black with like octagons everywhere. And it's like one of the oldest things from my stream of like, I couldn't beat the boss because I was terrible at the time. And I just like used the power of the octagon and just like put an octagon on my screen. Like, just my stream layout, it just sat there. So I could have the power to beat the boss, because now I have the octagon on my side. And I literally just left it there and like incorporated into like every layout for the next probably like 8 years, maybe.
Damn. I mean, 8 years would be appropriate. That'll be as many sides.
Yeah. It's getting close to that if it's not there yet.
Let's see. Folks, if you have any more questions, put them in. One I always ask is, do you have any people that you feel, speedrunners that need to be interviewed on a speedrun interview podcast? Any people that you would highlight?
I mean, I feel like Nal is the person that I shouted out. He's such a good personality. He is very good for an interview, and also has run some crazy things. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else like immediately for people who speedrun actively that I know well. I mean, you've already done Peking Boo, who would also be my like other go-to person.
That was a fun interview. There's so much tech going on with Peking Boo. I'm still like thinking about the Wii U gamepad wrapped in foil, which is an image that will never leave me. Matt, okay, so you know, I like to do a lot of mech games like Armored Core and stuff like that, and Magi is asking, do you have any favorite experiences dealing with mechs? Could be anything, Zone of the Enders, Mech Warrior, any of that kind of stuff.
The funniest thing about that was the way that I read that question. When I saw favorite mech experience, immediately my brain went to mechanical keyboards.
Oh,
because of like how much I like use them and like talk about mechanical keyboards. But favorite mech experience, I was never like super into like a lot of like mech stuff, but I as a kid had like specific Gundam things. They're like mini Gundams that like I don't even remember specifically what they're called. I mean, there's so many different Gundam ones at this point.
Like the super deformed ones, the SD Gundams, or
no idea at this point.
Yeah, don't worry about it. There's too much to keep track of.
I'm pretty sure they had like little dudes inside of them though that you could like put in. But I like collected a bunch of those, so I had some of those scattered around. I would say the other thing that I would put as like a favorite mech experience is when I went to Japan, they have like the world's biggest Gundam, like life-sized. So it's just cool to stand there and just see it. It's crazy.
Well, now you baited in the question. Someone else has asked, what is your favorite mechanical keyboard experience? I'm going to have to follow up there, I guess.
Favorite mechanical keyboard experience? Okay, well this is a more funny one. My first mechanical keyboard was a refurbished Razer Black Widow Ultimate 2013 blue switch keyboard. So I bought it refurbished because obviously it's cheaper, and I was like, I'm fine with refurbished things. I took it out of the box. I pressed in the space, like I was testing all the keys. I pressed in the space bar. It just made a loud like chunk sound, and then it stayed there and then never came back up. And I couldn't like pull it out. Like it was just like locked in. I returned that one.
Yeah. No, that makes me think of like the old like emote typing meme where it'd be like something no space, like now you have no space bar. That's it. It's over.
No space.
Well, okay. I think when I stopped in this week, the saga of this week, as far as I could put it together, was you were editing a fan game called I Want to Be the Destination.
Yes.
But like the way you kept talking about it, it was like you were doing this edit really just as kind of a preferred modification for yourself. Just the Fiction in chat has asked, what gave you the push to finally make Destination HD?
Yeah, so the thing about that is there's a classic fan game maker known as Carnival. He's made like a ton of really, really influential old fan games that at this point tons of people love and know. So I was working on like I always liked his design style, but he has this habit of very saturated colors. He has a game called I Want to Be the Crimson where the entire stage is like RGB like 25500. So like it is the brightest red ever, and like I have pretty sensitive eyes. So like it actually hurts to play those. Like I had to use a blue light filter on not a blue light filter, Windows 10 color filter to like adjust the values of everything, or have someone make a mod that like desaturates things. So I always wanted to play Destination, but the final boss, it's a pretty well-known final boss in like other games because of the way it's designed is pretty cool. But the way it works is it has like 4 different colored attacks, and it'll randomly switch between them. And it's like bright red, dark blue, bright yellow, well, brightish yellow, and like dark purple. So it just like switches immediately from one to the other. And I fought that boss in another game, which it's like significantly shorter in that game. And it basically made my vision blurry for like a week after playing it.
Jeez.
Yeah. So like it it's not good on the eyes, especially for someone who has sensitive eyes. So I always wanted to like try to mod it. And it in July of 2019, one of my friends made like a mod of Destination just to like remove restarting music, because a lot of fan games have music that resets when you press R, like reset.
Yeah.
So one of my friends removed that, and I joined in because I like always wanted to make something, and until less than a week ago, I hadn't done anything with it, even though I intended on it, because I want to play it at some point. But one of my friends, Flavia, who's more recently gotten into streaming fan games, he was just like, he wanted to play Destination, but he didn't think he had the restarting music version. And I knew that I had it, so I opened up like the game maker file so I could like compile it for him and send him the file, only for him to discover that A, he already had that version, and B, I was like, well, now that it's open,
yeah, now that I'm here,
like I've been putting this off for a year and a half, may as well just like do something. And because of the way that my mind works, and instead of eating dinner at a normal time, I opted to just work on that for like several hours. And that was like when that was off stream, and then like the next day I was like, I'll stream it.
All right, let's do the follow-up to that, which is, speaking of Carnival, who would you consider the most influential fan game maker?
Most influential? Necron. Necron is the maker of I don't know how much of like fan game stuff you've seen at all, but
not
there's
too much.
Like,
no, you.
So there's like a classic layout of, there's like a Miku sprite over on the right, like Hatsune Miku, and then there's 9 platforms over on the left. So it's like 5 on the left and then like 4 in the middle. And that exact layout, and like the fact that she shoots cherries like out of her mouth at you, was in a fan game known as I Want to Be the Love Trap from like 2010, 2011. And that was like hugely influential in the Japanese community. And the game had like a whole bunch of other stuff in it, like moving cherry cycles that are weird and just like really precise stuff for the time. And it was like so influential in the community, like huge in the Eastern community, and then eventually became like more of a thing in the Western community as like became more and more common. And Necron made that along with some other like really classic ones that even to this day are still like really hard, like impressively hard. And they were making like really hard, precise things before people were even like, like before people even really feel like that stuff should be possible. And it is, which is like insane. So yeah, he did a lot of stuff. Cool.
No, that's neat too. Like, I almost wonder like how easy or hard do you think it would be to like write a history of fan games, like just because of how diverse and how much there is? Would it sort itself neatly at all? Like if if someone said like, I'm going to give you a huge advance to write a book on fan game history, is that even feasible? Or
well, thankfully there's one person in the community, Kiyoshi, who like just this past year made a timeline of fan games.
Oh, okay.
So they went through and like tried to pinpoint specific dates in time, or like relative dates in time where important things happen, like Love Trap releasing, or like X game releasing, or like Fan Game Marathon first year happening, whatever. And just like has a long list of that stuff. So if you wanted to write a book, now at the very least you could like try to follow that timeline.
It's a great starting point at the very least. Yeah,
at the very least. But God, there's so much to say, and so many things are like a lot of things are just like gone with history at this point.
Yeah.
So
no, that's neat. I'm not sure about Magi's question here. Is Wing of V, or is that Wing of 6? Do you recognize what Magi is referring to here?
Wings of V. It was the game Solgren made. Like it was basically the next game after Bashi that people knew.
See, that shows you how much I know.
It was his first like Steam release game. And to answer the question, Wings of V as it is not a fan game, but Wings of V initially basically was. So an old version of Wings of V V was a lot smaller and had like a double jump, and it played very similarly to a Fangame. And it was only like later on in development that he decided it should be like much larger, like more combat focused, and like have like fluttering and jumping. So Wings of V, as it is now, is not a Fangame, but initially, yeah, it was like it very much had all the aspects of a Fangame.
All right. Well, I think that might be about it to wrap up. Then it seems like we don't have any more questions. So in that case, I'm probably going to start searching for a raid target. Did you have anyone? If you want to suggest a raid target, I would be happy to take that from you. Let's see.
Oh, Froob would be another good person to get an interview for.
Oh, Froob? I actually, chicks on you. I already interviewed Froob.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I was wondering about that. I thought like maybe you might have.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I had known of Froob for years because at ESA 2017, like his run was before mine, and so I was like, I watched his run live at ESA, and then like I'm very good friends with Tapioca, who also runs the Yakuza series, and so I was like, oh, Froob's running Yakuza, and et cetera, et cetera. So we can raid Froob if you want. I have no problem with that.
Oh, okay. Hold on. There's someone I found from Peking Boo again. Mr. CZR Drums. He would be a cool raid target.
All right, you want to put the link into chat so I can make sure I get that right.
He is speedrunning Super Mario 64 with a drum set.
Ooh, all right, excellent. All right, well let me initiate that.
And just really quickly, I said, what are the best switches? I use like proprietary switches for my keyboard that are like similar to Red's, but I mean, it's all down to preference. It's so much down to preference. Every single time I get a new keyboard, I get different switches just to try out more things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Preference is probably the way to go. Well, anyway, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much again for giving me all this time. Hopefully, I'll see you around in the future, maybe in person at GDQ, God willing, or at least very much around on the internet.
Someday.
Yeah, someday, right?
All right. Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Excellent. Take care.